Hi, it's Colli from Colli Talks, Transformative Conversations. Well, today, as I always say, we are going to go deep. And, you know, sometimes we really do need to do that in order for people to finally get it. And when I say get it, I'm not meaning it in a derogatory way. I'm saying to get it. I'm talking about the importance of understanding family systems because so many people, it's an epidemic right now of separation, divorces, unruliness, sense of self-entitlement. Uh, It's just wow. And so, people go, "Oh, what's going on?" Well, I'm going to tell you. It's the importance of understanding family systems because that's where it all begins, right? So, our family is not just a group of people with blood ties, it's a complex system where each member influences and is influenced by the other. Understanding how this system works is essential to understanding why we and everybody does. So, don't you think you haven't or aren't going to, or someone you know isn't repeating certain behavioral patterns. And sometimes those are painful or limiting. Now, think about that for a minute. So, research in systemic psychology, such as that of Murphy Bowen, has shown that emotions, roles, and unresolved conflicts in the family can and are passed down from generation to generation, affecting our emotional health and our current relationships. Understanding the family system allows us, to detect inherited patterns that affect us, break negative repetitive cycles, improve our personal and family relationships. And I don't know anybody that is in a perfect relationship, right? But the thing is, we want to be able to detect these things, right? So if we can detect inherited patterns that affect us or break the negative repetitive cycles, improve our personal and family relationships, and achieve greater emotional and mental well being, especially in this time that we're living in now with the windshield wiper effect of, you know, today it's this and tomorrow it's that, and today it's this and tomorrow it's that. But yeah, it's like Virginia Satir once said, "We are the story we have inherited, but also the story that we choose to create." So if you are choosing to create that story, then what story are you wanting to create? This is key because these things are passed from generation to generation and unconsciously. They dwell deep within us and shape how we live without us fully knowing why we act the way we do. Sometimes they show up as painful repetitions, failed relationships, financial blocks, illness, fears, difficulties in belonging, or in feeling loved. And oftentimes they appear as invisible loyalties that tie us to stories from the past, making us carry guilt or destinies that do not belong to us. Those patterns can be constructive and limiting. We can inherit the strength, resilience, and love of our ancestors, but also their traumas, unresolved grief, unprocessed losses. But the good news is that everything transmitted unconsciously can be illuminated and transformed with awareness. What an amazing opportunity that is, right? Because if we can transform it, that means so much can be changed that we don't even realize. So understanding these patterns, that they exist in is totally the first step toward beginning the healing process. Because once we become aware of them, we can start to free ourselves from them. I know it seems like a lot of work, but you know what? It really isn't. Because if you think of it, what else is working on worth, right? I mean, if you can free yourself from this, right? So, as I said before, the good news is that everything transmitted unconsciously can be illuminated and transformed with awareness. What a great opportunity that is. Not just for us, but for our children. And if we have grandchildren like I do, that's such an amazing opportunity. So, in simple terms, an inherited pattern, is a way of acting or thinking that repeats across my family lineage. And sometimes it's so deeply ingrained in the family that the person experiencing it doesn't even realize it's part of something bigger than themselves. And when I'm talking bigger, I'm talking about, this is a systemic, right? This is systemic. And that's huge. That is huge because it is bigger than themselves. It's bigger than what I ever perceived it to be. So these inherited patterns are behaviors, beliefs, emotions, and traumas passed down from one generation to another within families. And these patterns are mostly invisible, but they do affect the way we think, feel, and act. And they can be positive and negative, but their main characteristic is that they repeat across the generations without us even being aware of them. And like I said before, in simple terms, an inherited pattern is a way of acting or thinking that repeats across your family lineage. Sometimes it's so deeply ingrained in the family that the person experiencing it doesn't even realize it. And that's where the discovery of what is going on is so beautiful because once a person can actually get into that, there's nothing that can stop you from shifting, right? Because you're carrying things that are, these hidden patterns that act like internal programs automatically guide your emotional reactions and decisions. And once they're discovered, you can actually move out of that, right? So, according to the psychologist Judith Herman, trauma not only affects the individual directly involved, but also the descendants through psychological and emotional processes. And a study by Daniel Siegel on interpersonal, neurobiology highlights how a lack of communication and the denial of generation, the trauma in the generations, as an unconscious emotional transmission, manifests as anxiety, depression, or identity problems in descendants. And that's huge when you think of it because there's also family secrets such as unspoken deaths, abortions, addictions, or violence. And these act as invisible burdens that affect subsequent generations. So this is affecting so many that have gone before us and that will come after us. Very important, very important to know this. And so, my studies in family constellations and systemic trauma has brought me to so much awareness of all this and how important it really is. For example, I'll give you an example. A family that never spoke, for example, about a grandfather who maybe was in prison for a serious crime, perhaps for political reasons or due to an unjust situation, decides to erase that fact from their history. Well, parents and grandparents avoid any conversation about it, forbidding mention his name at gatherings, removing autographs or photographs or physical mementos of him. And although the matter remains in silence, the family system continues to hold it. Yeah. So then what happens is a grandson might come along without ever knowing his grandfather. And might actually begin to display self destructive behaviors, problems with the law, addictions, self sabotage, as an unconscious way to honor and give a place to the excluded person, his grandpa. You know, patterns repeat across generations so that the hidden story eventually comes to light. And we might want to go, oh, this is poo poo woo hoo, but it's not. It really isn't. For example, if you think in terms of illness, in some families, illness repeat across generations. And, several family members may suffer from the same diseases or conditions, even mental disorders. But these illness patterns can result from unresolved emotions or a family approach that perpetuates unhealthy habits. Really? Well, it's interesting because it can actually come from the systemic family situation. And unfortunately, some people think, well, grandma had this, my mom had this, so I'm going to have this. But this isn't a punishment. It's an unconscious attempt to bring and belonging and balance or bring to light what remains unresolved. And this is so important to really, really get an understanding of. And it even affects abundance or poverty. Like another common pattern is related to this, right? The family, there's deep belief that money is bad, you know, the roots of money are all evil, that there's never enough. But this belief may have been passed down through generations as well, affecting financial decisions and prosperity of family members. So, it comes like, oh, if I have more than they do, I'll feel bad. It's like betraying them. And this case reflects a common pattern. It's systemic guilt for surpassing the living conditions of previous generations, which can lead to financial self sabotage or an inability to enjoy the fruits of one's own labor. So, from a systemic perspective, honoring, your ancestors and bringing to light that of which, they worked hard, but you don't have to carry it, right? And you could honor them and say, I give you what is yours, take what is yours, but I choose to live differently and I choose with your gift of acceptance and your blessing to move forward in a way that can also bring this to our family. So, understanding inherited patterns is not just about becoming aware of them, it's the first step toward breaking free from them. Yes. And who doesn't want to be able to be free? I mean, isn't that what we all want? We want to be free, we want peace, we want love, we want abundance. And so, simply recognizing that invisible forces connect us to the past can actually give us the power to reshape our present and our future. So if, you think about it, and if you found yourself in any way worrying, right, about any of these examples that I've just shared briefly, don't worry. This is just the first step in breaking those patterns because that's my work is to guide you through the process of healing this, freeing yourself and creating a new story for you and generations to come. So I hope you found this somewhat liberating and, in a way, giving you not just hope, because we need more than hope. We need desire. We need movement towards that of which we might have not realized that we even want. But the thing is, when we understand that it isn't just us, there's a whole other before us and after us. So it's in a way paying it forward, but it's paying it forward in a way that we've been paid forward to from our generational lineage. So I'm going to just close here. It's just a little conversation. And if you have any questions, if you have any, I would say, curiosity, please be in touch with me. This is my life's work. This is my love. And I just love to share with people because I really love people to be free and I really love people to be at peace. And I really love for people to know that it didn't start with you, but it can end with you. And there is a way in and through. So for now, lots of love and soul hugs.